Bounty hunting is a complicated profession. Don't you agree?
It is a time of restoration. The Empire has fallen, and the new Republic begins to establish peace throughout the galaxy. But in the far reaches of the Outer Rim, where lawlessness and corruption still exist, a lone gunfighter emerges. Join Siber Wren and D.Vizsla as they track the adventures of the Mandalorian. This is the MandaLore Podcast.
That's right, welcome to the MandaLore, the definitive podcast for the very definitive new Star Wars show, which, if you haven't heard yet, is the #1 show in the world. I am Siber Wren.
And I'm D.Vizsla.
So welcome everybody to Episode 8, Chapter 5, called The Gunslinger. And just before we get into that, we got a little bit of news points we want to dive into first. Alright, Baby Yoda merchandise. Where is it available, Vizsla? There's a couple online stores, and I think Disney Online is pretty much the only one right now, because it's all pre-order stuff. Have you heard of any other locations people can get Baby Yoda stuff?
No, I haven't, actually. Disney's the only place I've seen it as well, and it is all pre-order, so too bad. Not going to get that stuff for Christmas, unfortunately.
No, yeah, because they're saying, like, some of those, the plush dolls and the little the Funko Pops, they're, like, not due to ship until March or May. It's crazy.
That's right. Yeah, I think the Pops are March, maybe, and I think the later stuff is May.
Yeah. I've seen ads from other places, I'm guessing rip-off sites and stuff, saying you can order now, but it's highly unlikely they have it before Disney actually has it.
I will say on a side note that I just saw tonight, there's already cosplaying going on. I saw there was a convention this weekend, and a little kid, probably like 7 years old, was dressed as the Mando, holding a Baby Yoda walking around.
Oh,
It was like the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Oh, that is so cool. If there's pictures of that, we got to post some of those on the Facebook page.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it again, because it was like a real short video I saw on my feed, and I got to find it again. It was incredible.
Oh, hilarious. Well, speaking of Baby Yoda, according to an interview with Jon Favreau himself, he says there's going to be an origin story for Baby Yoda coming sometime during this series.
Yeah, I think I think that was inevitable now that we've seen him every episode, because we were thinking that maybe, at least I was, maybe we weren't going to see him after the third episode, but now that he's around, you got to start explaining. Someone's got to say something about where he's from.
Yeah, I mean, as much as we should get an origin for the Mando himself, I mean, finding out, it kind of opens it's like George Lucas has opened the doors wide open to allow his most coveted secret to finally be revealed and teach us about Yoda's species.
Yeah, and it's going to be very interesting to find out who actually knows that history, because according to most people in the Star Wars universe, no one knows.
Yeah, so I'm assuming Filoni at the very least, maybe Favreau, at least they should be talking to Lucas, because I know he's there. We know he's visiting the set. He's involved in some way, so they must be getting the info from him, because there's no way he would allow them to go ahead and make up their own version of it.
No, but what I mean is, like, in this show, like, what character could possibly know and fill the Mandalorian in on who this, what species this is and where they come from, because no one knows that in the universe anyway. So, like, we've talked about on the show, like, not many people even know or familiarize with that species, and no one really knows about Yoda. So it's like it's very difficult. It would be very difficult unless you maybe find some former Jedi that possibly could pop up that could know. I don't know. Yeah,
because unless you were really part of the High Council or you were in some type of political delegations or something with Yoda himself, chances are 90% of the galaxy's residents don't know about Yoda or know what his species is. Yeah,
that's right.
Cool.
That's right.
Well, speaking of backstory, you've got something else here about someone else's backstory.
Yeah, there was an interview in the Hollywood Reporter last week with Gina Carano, a great little article, highlighting her intro to the series and in chapter 4, The Sanctuary, last week. There's some good highlights in there if everybody wants to check it out. She praises Bryce Dallas Howard extremely well with giving her the confidence do the character and to how to play the character. She mentions a lot about the fight scene that you witnessed with her and the Mando, how the original choreograph wasn't exactly what they ended up doing. They, in the beginning, I think she actually had more of an advantage, but they wanted to Dallas ended up wanting to make it more of a draw. So they changed it up a little bit, which worked pretty well. And then, but the real cool thing was to learn a little bit more that Favreau told her as much as we know about her backstory right now. So
really,
yeah, everything that we know from what she said in the episode is all that she knows about the character.
So that's going to make it kind of fun for her, I guess, to get the script on the first day of shooting and read through. Oh, what? That's going to happen? Like, she's going to be just as surprised as us.
That's exactly right. And I think there's more to come from her. And Favreau's Favreau has told her that there is more to come from her backstory. So, she which is a clear indication, I think, that she will be around for a while in this series.
That's cool. I can't wait to have her back. And I mean, she had such a good chemistry with the Mando, so that'll be fun to see them back together again in some facet.
Right, because the questions that are really about not necessarily a backstory, but why she's even, why we're kind of told why she left the Republic, but what are the main reasons and why did she think that there was a bounty on her? Did she do something to deserve a bounty besides just leave the Republic? And there's some questions about her backstory for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to it. Now, staying on Favreau, he also said in a different news article that everybody involved in production, like him and Filoni and the whole crew, they are all making sure to merge all facets, all angles of Star Wars with this show. And what I mean by that is connecting every type of media, whether it's the trilogies, the prequels, or the new trilogies, the Clone Wars, the Rebels cartoons, the canon books, the legend books, all of that stuff. He is pulling from all of it and using the Mandalorian to connect all of them, because not everything feels, I guess, seamlessly connected. Some fans are only fans of the prequels because they're of their age or whatever. So he's trying to use the Mandalorian to connect everything and include bits and pieces or some aspect of all of their histories on this show. And that, to me, is absolutely a brilliant move, because it's definitely a Marvel move, like you're talking about the Marvel movies. But for Star Wars, it brings everything together and makes everything connected and makes this much more of a living, breathing universe, more so than it already has been for 40 years. But what an undertaking, and to be able to pull on whoever's, I guess, experience and knowledge to be able to bring that in, it just blows me away. That is a massive undertaking.
It is, and that to me is the definition of fandom. This guy is a true fan of Star Wars, true fan of all the pieces that are out there, comics, books. I mean, if he's pulling from all that stuff, for one, I have a feeling he has a lot of knowledge from those things firsthand, but then he's also obviously talking to all the people in Lucasfilm that are working on all those things, people like the story group and all the producers and stuff like that. So it doesn't surprise me, because Favreau and Filoni seem to be like the biggest Star Wars fans in Lucasfilm, and
right.
I mean, I've said this. Me and Casey and some other people have talked about it, and my friends that basically have said, hand the keys to Favreau and Filoni, and we'd be 100% fine with Star Wars going forward. Yeah,
exactly. And because Filoni is a almost like adopted son of Lucas, I mean, I'm sure they can just pick up the phone and say, "Hey, George, what do you think of this?" and just get his advice on anything, anytime they want, too.
What a luxury!
Oh, I know.
And you want to talk about connecting the trilogies, because this episode does have several callbacks to a lot of the films in both eras, and it's phenomenal.
Yeah, and that's a lot of our fun points that we're going to talk about.
Correct.
And if you look back now, so far 5 episodes in, they've already been doing that. If you go, especially when you watch them a couple times each, you do see all these little connections and inclusions and just little pieces, whether it's off to the side or in the background or directly slapping us in the face. He's already connecting everything together, but definitely this episode for sure was chock full of a ton of them.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Now, one funny thing I was reading an article, I just wanted to point out here, because you guys know how I've been complaining how short our episodes have been, and we're not getting a full minimum 42 minutes like every other hour-long show. Well, this article had gathered, I don't know whether they did a poll or they gathered information from scouring the internet, but they discovered that the number one complaint that fans hate the most about The Mandalorian is the runtime. I'm not alone.
No, you're not. I think a lot of people are surprised that it's as short as it is.
Yeah, I mean, people are feeling that they're getting cheated out of this, because the longest episode we've had was 35 minutes. Once you take out the previously on and the extremely long credit sequence at the end, the longest episode we had was 35 minutes. So, people are feeling a little bit cheated. But I also read in that same article, the guy was talking about, well, maybe this is proof of the TV era changing, that where shows like Arrow and Flash were going 22, 23 episodes per season, and then The Walking Dead came out with only doing 10 to 16 episodes, and now you see so many other shows only doing an average of 10 to 12 episodes per season, and people are saying that forces the writers to write very strong, very good episodes instead of trying to spread stories out over 23 episodes. It forces the writing to be a lot stronger and a lot tighter. And The Mandalorian is now taking that one step further by shortening the actual episode itself, forcing the writers to also be even tighter with the writing so that you fit a whole lot of good content in the 30-minute window that you have.
Right.
And I don't know if I fully agree with that. I understand it, but I still it's like what we were saying with the movies. I do not want to go watch The Rise of Skywalker and only be sitting there for an hour and 20 minutes like a lot of movies are these days. I want 3 hours worth at least.
Yeah.
So, that's just how I feel about The Mandalorian too. I mean, there's so much good stuff here. I'm sure they could squeeze in an extra 7 minutes that we would all be totally content with.
I guess the only thing I would say of that is, if that's the only thing people are complaining about, you're doing really well.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. Way to put a silver lining out of that.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with you. All right, guys. Well, that's all we got for our news. The last thing we just want to remind you guys of is to please spread the word about our show, sharing it with everybody you know, Star Wars fans, friends, family, whatever. That's the easiest and best way to increase our listenership and get fans invested in this podcast as much as they are as the show. So please share the show, tell people about it. Let's increase this community and grow with The Mandalorian, because The Mandalorian has taken off. I want this podcast to take off as well, right, Vizsla?
Absolutely, and we'll highlight some highlights or some reviews later in the show. But it's welcomed, and we definitely appreciate it.
Exactly. All right, let's get into our overall impressions and ratings.
No disintegrations.
As you wish.
Okay, I teetered around with my rating on this one, and I ended up being on an 8.5 desert trips on a speeder bike. Okay, this one may have just gotten my highest rating, I think, so far. I can't remember if I rated the premiere a 9. Maybe I rated it a 9. I'll have to go back and look. But it got one of my highest ratings anyway. And I think that really is because of all the nostalgia and connections to the films, like you highlighted already, that I was jumping with excitement on every turn this episode took. We get an awesome action opener with a good old Star Wars firefight, which has always been a highlight of the films. Plus, we get a bunch of locations and characters we haven't seen in a long time. What fun this episode was for me.
Me too, Siber Wren. I give this thing actually 9 pit droids.
Nice.
I really like this episode. This episode was so unexpected that I was drawn in immediately when I saw that planet horizon, that golden planet horizon, because I knew exactly where he was. There's so many Easter eggs in this episode, which we'll talk about, from so many different things, but we were also able to further this story. It still advanced our characters, but it also was a great mix because it introduced us to some new characters. It's something I think the fans were waiting for, and I think that we kind of didn't really think we wanted it, but we got it, and I think we loved it. Overall, it was just a fun episode. You're right.
Yeah, it totally was for sure. Especially that first time through, it was just edge of your seat. Every moment was like, oh my god, they're going here. Oh, look at that. Every moment, it was just so much fun. And then on the second and third watch, I had to settle in. Okay, now I got to find my talking points. What do I want to talk about this episode? And I had my fun. Now let's get to work on it. So yeah, definitely fun. Yeah, so let's get into that. Some of those points then in our Cantina chatter.
What if he doesn't survive? He's worth a lot to me.
All right, let's go right to the very beginning. That firefight opener. Who was that guy chasing them? Was he just another bounty hunter or anyone we were supposed to guess at? I'll start with that question.
Well, he wasn't familiar. The only thing I found on him is if you look at of course, it's funny because I go to the end credits every time I have questions, and they do a good job of listening. So in the end credits, they listed someone named Riot Marr. Riot Marr seems to be the character that is following him, and he's new, so there's no full description of who he is. He's just a male bounty hunter that's going after him. This is the only appearance, obviously, by him.
Yeah, he's new and he's gone.
So we might get some backstory some point maybe with him, but there's nothing going forward.
Maybe not. Well, from the last couple episodes, we see that so many bounty hunters all have tracking fobs, so he's probably just the next one
correct
in line that found the Mando, which, like the sniper on the planet that they were on last week. So yeah, this is just the next guy, and
yep.
But what a fun opening sequence. We haven't seen a good space fight like that in a while, and to have that kind of action to open our TV episode with was pretty cool. Now his spaceship, I saw some people speculating online that it was a Naboo type ship that he was flying. Did it look like that to you?
It did look like that to me. That was the first time the first viewing when I saw that, I was like, wow. It's not the one we're familiar with from Naboo. It's called an N1 Starfighter, which is the yellow thing, yellow starship you see.
Yeah.
So it was very slick like that, but not quite, because it seemed like it was a lot thinner. So I don't, again, there's no encyclopedia yet of the craft that he was flying in, but it very much resembled that. So it's funny because once you get into the episode, it's like, wow, okay, so maybe that was some kind of callback, to the prequel era.
Maybe, yeah. It could be. The Naboo stuff we saw was in Phantom Menace, the prequels, which is quite a few years ago. So I'm sure Naboo's technology has advanced and evolved since then. So it very much could be just a newer version of their attack fighters. Who knows?
Right. Very much so.
But they're fast and mobile. So if a bounty hunter wants to use them, then hey, it's not a bad ship. Now with him, he didn't seem like he was trying to take out the Mandalorian. It looked like he wanted to immobilize them, because he was just shooting them off the wing, trying to take out his engines. It looked like he was, I guess, wanting to bring them in alive or whatever. He didn't want to destroy them. And then it was kind of funny because when Mando finally turned the tide, he just took one shot and boom, that was it for him.
Yeah, his ship is pretty massive. You can obviously see the difference in size. Compared to the Starfighter. So yeah, he's got a lot more firepower on it, but yeah, he's good maneuver. He did the old Top Gun Maverick, pull the brakes on you.
Yeah.
Maneuver, which is pretty fun.
It was pretty cool. Yeah. Now the last little bit that I loved in that is that the camera kept going to Baby Yoda, showing his reactions to everything that was happening.
Yes,
it was just fun. Like he's probably has no idea what's going on, but I'm sure he was a little bit freaked out by all of that.
He's taking it all in, for sure. Yeah.
And again, I'm laughing at all those switches and buttons in the cockpit there. How does anyone know what to flick or push and when to do it? Because you saw the Mandalorian. Yeah. He got up and he's moving all around the cabin, flicking this, turning that, whatever. And how do you know what you're touching? I guess it comes down to being trained as an airline pilot, going to fly for United Air or whatever. Like there's a million switches in those cabins as well, but still, it just makes me chuckle.
And I always think about that because I've seen there's a lot of Clone Wars episodes where you're in an escape pod or in a starship and all the power goes out and you're just floating endlessly in space. Honestly, if I had a fear, that would be one of my fears in life.
Yeah.
Is floating through space with no power, nothing. I mean, when all those lights went out in there, it's like, wow, that's terrifying. And
that's terrifying.
Yeah, when he went over and first flipped the switch, I was thinking, okay, he's got some backup power or something like that. He's got to switch on. That's kind of what I thought about.
Yeah, which is what he did. But yeah, you're right, because I mean, if you go dead in space, it's 1 in a billion trillion chance someone's going to happen to fly by you like that.
Oh gosh!
I mean, how big space is? It's massive. There's no words to describe how much room there is out there. So yeah, definitely freaky. So thank God he's got a backup system and he knew what to do. But definitely. All right, Mos Eisley. That was my first big wow. Oh man, this is going to be an awesome moment. Because as soon as he said it, Mos Eisley, he connected with the landing port or whatever, and he said you can land at Port 35 or whatever. Yeah, you knew it was Tatooine right away. Now, this is the first time we're seeing a known planet, a very popular and well-known planet in the Star Wars universe. It's the first time on this show because so far we've had only new planets. Now, it made me think for a second. Did we always know Tatooine was in the Outer Rim? Because this show's supposed to take place only out in the Outer Rim. Did we always know Tatooine was way out there?
Yeah, Tatooine's definitely in the Outer Rim. Yes.
All right.
Now, I don't know if it was mentioned in the Outer Rim in the original trilogy, even though it was kind of always said. But definitely, if you remember in Episode 1, when Qui-Gon first talks to, gets invited by Anakin into his house.
Okay.
He says, our ship is damaged. He says, how did you end up out here in the Outer Rim? So he definitely mentions it then, but we kind of knew before then, too, that it was in all the star maps and everything that was beforehand. It was definitely Outer Rim.
Cool. All right. Yeah, I just wanted to check in on that. So it was, what a cool connection to the original trilogy. I mean, we last saw Tatooine in Phantom Menace, which is a newer movie, but in the story timeline, we haven't seen Tatooine since Return of the Jedi when we were in Jabba's palace, and we had to go rescue Han from him. We had that whole cool scene. So it's been a while since we've seen Tatooine, and it's so cool that they brought it all back for us, and we got to see this location, and it made me wonder, how much of the set was still there? Because they filmed all this stuff in Tunisia, which is in Africa, or Tunisia. I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but I wonder how much of the film set was still there, or did they have to rebuild everything just for these sequences?
Yeah, it'd be very interesting to know and see some behind-the-scenes stuff on where they... I have a feeling they didn't travel all the way to Africa to shoot this with the TV budget. I don't know. Maybe, I feel like they just went probably in the desert in California, somewhere in Nevada, and rebuilt some of this stuff, because you can tell there's some CG obviously with the background of the cities, the city in there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So they just had to get a little bit of it built, but the cantina itself was spot on.
Wow.
So
yeah, the cantina. Let's talk about the cantina, because it's the very same one from A New Hope, and we haven't seen it since then, and it was just so awesome to see, and to see how it's changed. I mean, it's been quite a few years going by our Star Wars timeline, so things have changed in the cantina. Things that I noticed, and you can maybe rhyme off some things you noticed, but it's less busy. There's not the big crowd that was there when we saw all the crazy creatures and everything. There's now droid bartenders, and I'll get back to that in a second. But droids are also allowed in the bar now, because that was the defining moments of that when R2 and C-3PO first tried to walk in there, and the bartender yells out, "We don't serve those kind here."
Right.
And Luke tells them, "Wait outside." But now we've got droids in the bar, and I say that because it looks like that was R5-D4. It could have been any R5 unit, but it looked like R5-D4. Why wouldn't it be him?
It looked like D4 for sure. Not exactly sure his fate. He has popped up in some stories, not later, not beyond Return of the Jedi, but he has popped in some side stories.
Okay, cool. So he got fixed and repaired, obviously, after.
I guess he's been around since then. Yeah, I guess.
Cool. Now I want to go back to the bartender droid, because is that not the same type of droid? You can tell me a little. I know a little bit more about them. Is that not the same droid that was branding the other droids that the Jawas were collecting when R2 and C-3PO kind of freaked out about getting branded?
Yes. So here's some really cool, some Cantina Easter eggs connections. That So yes, you're right. The series of droid that is called an EV series supervisor droid.
Ah, okay.
So it's if you want to get really into it, it's actually manufactured by this company called Marin Data, and they are supervisor droids. They can be bartenders. They can lead an operational part of your organization, which is what one of these droids was doing in Jabba's palace. And you're correct. That particular droid was EV-9D9. That's the one in Return of the Jedi that's in charge of the droids and supervising the droids and giving them tasks that work for Jabba. So when 3PO and R2 went down there, they were tasked by him to do this. So it was interesting to see them, now becoming bartenders in the cantina. And the cantina has it's funny because people call it Mos Eisley's Cantina. Mm-hmm. Not many actually know, or maybe they're not familiar with it, but actually during A New Hope, when we first see it, at the time it was actually called Chalmun's Cantina.
Okay, so, is that somebody?
Yes, Chalmun was actually a Wookiee, and he owned the cantina.
Wow, so, I had never heard of that before.
Yeah, Chalmun is you don't ever see him in the movie, but there's definitely stories about him, and he is canon. So Chalmun was the owner. Wooher was the bartender you're talking about with, we don't allow droids in here. So he was the bartender. A lot of people thought he was the owner, claimed he might have been the owner, but he wasn't. He was just the bartender.
Yeah, okay.
So, and the cantina has actually showed up in several things, several other mediums, particularly we've been back to the cantina in Clone Wars a couple times. So it hasn't been since A New Hope, since we've seen the Mos Eisley Cantina. We've actually seen it a couple times in Clone Wars. So it obviously fits that Filoni would go back there, and stuff like that. So cool little history. And as you said, I think because the bartender mentions that the Bounty Hunter Guild is no longer on Tatooine, mainly due, in my opinion, to the death of Jabba the Hutt, obviously. 5 years prior.
Okay, I have that coming up later in our notes. So.
Oh, yeah. So
cool.
That's kind of, I think that's why it's empty, because that was filled with bounty hunters at the time of A New Hope.
Right. Okay. Fascinating. That's cool. That's
a lot of, when you walk in there and I saw that, I was like, wow, there is so much going on in this. It's so crazy to see all this. It's awesome.
Yeah. And those droids especially, because I remember the scene, going back to what you're saying with them in Return of the Jedi when they're branding R2 and C-3PO, and that's because R2, I remember the scene specifically when R2 was being defiant, and the droid, he's like, "Ooh, you're a naughty one," or whatever he says, and he stands up really tall. He just keeps rising and rising as he's leaning over R2. Yeah. I remember as a kid, that freaked me out when I first saw that, because holy crap, that droid's like 12 feet tall. What's going on? It was freaky.
Yeah, I know.
So it was just cool to see them, and they looked exactly the same. They even moved the same.
They did.
Like herky-jerky, kind of not very smooth. Yeah.
No, very much so. And I do got to point out, too, if you go back and watch, on the outside of the cantina when the Mandalorian's walking in it, it's the same exact panning shot that Obi-Wan and Luke and 3PO and R2 were walking in. It's so reminiscent of that shot. It's awesome. It feels so good seeing that
stuff.
Stuff.
Well, even just when he walks in the stairs and the stairwell to it and everything, can you imagine just getting to play that? Like you're on the Mandalorian, whether you're a staff member or a crew member or even one of the guys dressed up, you could just be hanging out in the background wearing some kind of costume. I'm in the cantina. I know. I'd be hard pressed to not freak out.
and I said this in my review. That's why I was so surprised. I cannot believe that. I'm assuming you were so surprised that I can't believe we never heard in any news or rumors that we were going to see the cantina, because I had not heard anything.
Yeah, either have I. I'm surprised that I guess they're able to keep something secret.
Gosh, that is incredible.
Maybe they redirected our attention away from it, so we weren't going to find it out. I don't know. Crazy.
It's great.
Crazy. It's just so much fun, though. I mean, there's so much happening just in that scene alone. I wanted to actually see the camera kind of pan around and show us the entire place, just to see other creatures and stuff there. But yeah, what a neat thing. Now that leads us into the introduction of another new character, whose name was, he actually introduced himself. He says, "I'm Toro Calican." Now that name didn't mean anything to me. Did it mean anything to you?
Nope, brand new character.
Okay.
Didn't mean anything to me.
Cool. Well, the most fascinating thing is that he was sitting at Han Solo's table the very first time we meet Han. So he's sitting there at the same location, the same spot. I can't. First of all, being that actor, if that actor looked pretty young, I'm sure he knows the Star Wars movies. That must have been an unbelievable moment to get to sit in that spot where it all happened, where the whole shootout with Greedo and everything. Oh. Just amazing. Another cool nostalgic moment that just almost put a tear to my eye that we're getting to see this come to life again.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know. Maybe this should be in the bounty section. But I'm kind of questioning. Do we know that's the exact spot? Because I was thinking I need to go back and watch A New Hope again to see exactly the perspective of where they're sitting versus. Yeah. I didn't immediately. Sure. It didn't immediately come to me when I was watching it that was the exact spot.
Huh. Okay.
But,
it did to me.
Okay.
I immediately jumped on it right away because I think that's the exact table location that was just around the corner from coming down the stairs and stuff. I'm pretty sure. I mean, that.
Oh, it was.
Go back check it and see.
Oh, you know what? You're exactly right. You are exactly right, because now I envisioned. After he shoots Greedo, he flips him the money and walks right up the steps. I think you're exactly right. That's that is the spot. Wow. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It was actually funny because Lisa beside me, she's like, "I wonder if the bullet hole's still there."
Well, I was looking for that. That's kind of what made me not think it was, because there wasn't any blaster marks anywhere. But they could have easily repainted the place.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's been years, of course. I'm sure they're going to fix the place up. So whether it is there or not, but very cool. So now something with Toro. We find out that he's a rookie, which leads to the what this episode synopsis was about the Mando helping a rookie. But he's sitting there. He's carrying a bounty puck and a tracking fob.
Mm-hmm.
And because I thought it was either one or the other, but because originally when we first see the Mando go to see Grief, he turns in all of his bounty pucks. We never saw that he had tracking fobs with all of them. So I wonder if that's a standard thing. You get a bounty puck and then you get a tracking fob, or did this kid just happen to have both?
I think you can get both. I think the Mando wasn't the first episode he turned in the fobs, because he had the fobs on the table, and when Grief said, "No, I don't have the money," and he started taking the fobs back. Or was it the pucks?
I thought he handed in the pucks.
I thought it was a whole collection of fobs, because it was the long pieces. But I'll have to rewatch that. But I think you can get both, because the fob is what you use to obviously track the bounty. I think the puck is just the information, I'm assuming, right? Just shows what how the price is, who the person is, what they look like. The tracker, though, is what they use to actually find the person. So I guess. So I'm assuming you can get both.
Well, I'm looking for the scene right now. I pulled up episode 1. I'm going to see if he turns in pucks or if he turns in fobs.
Yeah, I think it's fobs, because I'm assuming the pucks, again, just are loaded with the information. But I have a feeling he has the 4 fobs.
You are right. He hands in fobs. You're right. Okay,
yeah.
Well, that answers that question then. So they're getting fobs for every bounty that they have. So that something has changed here, because you and me are demanding some details about these tracking fobs. And I don't know if you saw on our Twitter account, I actually tweeted at Filoni and Favreau. I said, hey guys, we want to know what's going on with these tracking fobs. How do they work? We haven't gotten any response yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we're going to either. It might be something that they're holding back, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. So interesting. We'll have to see. Now, it's a funny thing with this rookie because he was quite a major character, a major player for this episode, but he ultimately doesn't even make it. He's like a one and done rookie. That was it. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure he's not coming back to life. That was a pretty good shot.
No, he's done.
Yeah.
Old Toro's done.
Interesting. Interesting that they're introducing us to these people and then.
Yeah, right now I feel like Cara Dune might be the only one that actually ends up coming back. I think Quill might be done. I think I didn't think IG-11, but now it seems like IG-11 might be done.
Yeah.
And then this character, and then Fennec. Who knows about that one either? That was surprising too. But
we'll talk about her in our bounty section for sure. Now, okay. One question I have for you, because we were talking about this off air, and this kind of leads right into this. Nobody seems to know or recognize Yoda's species so far. Uh-huh. Do you notice the reactions, like the lady, that the mechanic that when he lands his ship, and we'll talk about her later, and even Toro himself, and everyone else, like the people in last week's episode, when she thought it was the Mando's son, when O'Mara thought it was actually his kid, nobody seems to know Yoda species. No one recognizes it. They just kind of look at him like, oh, I don't know. I guess that's some other alien I've never seen before. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think I definitely think that it is a rare species. I mean, we've come to know that it's an unknown species, and that there's only 2 known characters that we know of that's ever been around in this world. I don't know. I think it's completely rare. I don't think anybody knows what it is. And at some point, you mentioned in the news, if they're going to tell us a backstory or going to tell us a history of this species, I'm just curious to find out who in this story is going to tell us that information, because how would they know, or where is that information stored, or are they going to somehow come across is the Mandalorian going to come across some civilization, all of a sudden there's a planet full of them? I don't know. It's like it's a big mystery, and it's becoming the main part of this story, it seems like, and at least the underlying part of the story. So
yeah, and like I was saying off air there, I think really for someone to know about Yoda's species, that nobody even knew Yoda unless you're on the Jedi Council or you were in part of some type of political delegations or something with Yoda before he, banished himself to Dagobah, went into hiding. You wouldn't know about Yoda because him and Yaddle were the only 2 at that time. So unless you were in the higher up political arena there, you would have no idea who Yoda. Well, then again, actually, that just makes me think. If you think back to Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, when they're in that huge council chamber, that huge domed area where there's thousands and thousands of, circular seating areas when they're all debating politics, all of them would know about Yoda.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they definitely would know for sure. But how does that translate and get to our story?
Yeah, well, and then how does it go up beyond that? Because he was like one of a kind at that point, once Yaddle was gone. So maybe people, like I said, people outside of politics, don't have any clue unless they actually met Yoda. Nobody knows. So that's why there is no information about the species and nobody's recognizing them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
interesting. Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Uh-huh. Now, I think my second big oh yeah moment for this, was the speeder bikes. As soon as he asked for them, grab a pair of speeder bikes, I thought, what? Speeder bikes on Tatooine? Because we've only seen them on what was the Ewoks planet?
Endor.
The moon of Endor, right. That's the only place we've seen them, in the giant forest there. So to actually have them here on Tatooine, that was my first initial reaction, oh my god, this is going to be so cool to see them on a different planet, because now that makes it seem like they're a very common mode of transportation. I just loved the scenes of them ripping across the desert like a pair of Harley Davidsons or something. It looks so cool the way they followed the landscape. You know, it's like they stay a specific height above the ground, but every bump, every crevice, every little thing, you could see the way the bike reacted to it, and the way it was just leaving a cloud of dust behind it. Oh my god, it was just a beautiful sight. I loved it.
Now, I'm not sure if it's the exact same one, but the other instance we actually did see a speeder bike on Tatooine, if you remember in Attack of the Clones, when Anakin goes searching for his mother.
You're right.
He jumps on a speeder bike, which I think may be the exact same one. This is kind of one of the callbacks to the other films that
you
they put
are
in
right.
There.
That is a connection I did not make.
Yeah.
You are right. Fantastic.
So it kind of reminded me of that when they first took off. Like, wow, that looks like Anakin when he sped out from the Owen Lare's homestead there.
Yeah, to go rescue his mom. He was pissed off.
He was pissed off, yeah. And he's flying, down the canyons and stuff like that. And it looked familiar. The bikes looked familiar, and it had the same sound, obviously, so it could have been the same bike.
Yeah, it was more of a motorcycle-looking one, even apart from the ones in Return of the Jedi. Those ones look a little bit different. These ones were, much more leisure vehicle kind of looking. Yeah. It's just so cool. I absolutely love it.
It's very cool.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, I want to talk about the Mandalorian's Beskar, because we'll get to talking about Fennec in a couple moments here. But when she's shooting at the Mando, she hits him 3 times in that entire action sequence. 2 shots from long range, but 1 from pretty close up. That Beskar can sure absorb a shot or 2. He is lucky he's wearing that stuff.
Oh, he'd be dead without that thing. I mean, he would be dead. I mean, from that range, I mean, he took a big shot. And you can see later on, too, that it actually made a mark. I think there was a black scar mark on his Beskar, which is weird that it can't be, I guess it's indestructible, but I guess it could be scarred a little bit. Yeah, well,
he's being shot by some kind of laser bolt, so I guess at closer range it's going to burn it, maybe.
Right.
A burn mark, right? But I mean, even at those 2 long range shots that knocked him off his feet. So I can't imagine that. That's gotta hurt. Getting shot by a long range rifle like that, and wham! I mean, it's such a great scene.
Took out his speeder.
Yeah.
It's damaging.
Now there was one funny line here, which for me was a callback to Boba Fett, which a lot of people probably get excited about, was when the Mando himself says, "She's no good to us dead."
Oh yeah, that was a good line, good callback. Yeah. So many of those.
Callback for there was a lot of them in there. Do you got any more callbacks like that you want to mention here before we move on?
Yeah, him riding that dewback was pretty cool.
Right.
We first saw the dewback when she set up the bounty hunter. I guess looked like he was dead.
Yep.
Now the dewbacks were in the original film. Now, for those of you that don't remember the original film, The New Hope, they never had them to where they can move.
Right, it was just stationary, right?
They were stationary. So in the horizon, when the stormtroopers are combing the desert, you can see in the back, and then
you're right.
When Obi-Wan and them are walking in the cantina, there's one sitting right out there, but it's only like a big puppet that only can move his head.
Right.
It wasn't until special editions that they were able to animate them.
Yeah, that's when you saw them walking, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
But I did want to mention, I forgot about this cool R4 story, because I think that is R4 that's in the cantina there.
Okay.
And what people don't really know, which is funny, because you have to go back to a book that came out a couple years ago on the 40th anniversary. There was a book that came out called From a Certain Point of View. And it was the novel of A New Hope, episode 4, but it was told from different perspectives, different views. So, for example, the first chapter was from the point of view of Captain Antilles on board the Tantive 4, the very beginning of the movie. I mean, it's the movie. It goes in that timeline, but it takes each chapter is from a different perspective, right?
Okay, cool.
So there's
a
point. Yeah, so there's a point when it gets to the cantina. That whole scene with Greedo and Han, like that's told from like 4 or 5 different people that are in the cantina. So, cool. Which is funny because it raises the question. Like some of them saw Greedo shoot first. Some of them saw Han shoot first. Some of them saw them shoot at the same time. Right? It's really cool.
Yeah, that
it's it's probably the highest rated book for me that I would suggest people because of the nostalgia factor.
Cool, and it's just called From a Certain Point of View.
From a Certain Point of View, yes. It's the 40th anniversary of A New Hope. Now, the one great story out of that was that whole scene where the Jawas are selling droids to Owen Lars.
Yeah.
And, you have R2 there, you have 3PO, and you have R4 there. So that story, that chapter, prior to that, what happens there, is told from R4's point of view. And that whole thing where, when he's walking away with Luke and he, his motivator goes out, right? And Luke says, hey, he's got a bad motivator. And so that you find out that was intentionally done by R4 because he knew R2's mission.
Oh.
And he sabotaged himself so that R2 would get taken by Luke so he can go out and find Obi-Wan.
Wow.
That's
awesome, fascinating. Right? Yeah, that is awesome because that gives him, because R2 has always had such an iconic and amazing personality, and that alone gives R5. Is there R5 or R4?
It's R5D4. Sorry,
R5D4. Yeah, it gives him his own personality, just like R2's. That he knows. Obviously, he either communicated with R2 beforehand or whatever.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm going to have to find that book and read it. It's cool.
Great. Yeah, it's great. You should get it.
Very, very cool. All right. Yeah. Well, let's get into our favorite scenes unless you got something else.
No, I got some other Easter egg stuff we'll hit up in the bounties.
All right. Sounds cool. Let's get into our favorite scenes now. I just have to say again that the speeder bikes going across the desert, I so wanted to be one going for a ride with those guys. I just wanted to hop on one and just take off for the day, just like Luke used to go play with his buddies after he's done his chores. That's all I wanted to do. But it doesn't make for a great audio clip. That is my favorite scene. But for the audio, I laughed pretty hard at this scene. And when the rookie and the Manda were waiting at nighttime, trying to wait out Fennec Shand there, when she had him pinned down with her sniper rifle, it was just funny when he thought the Mando was asleep and he's goofing around, and the Mando just looks at him like, "Are you done yet?"
Yeah.
It cracked me up. I laughed so hard. So here's that sequence.
Look at you, asleep on the job, old man.
You done?
Yeah. I was just waking you up. Come on.
Maybe it doesn't play as well with just audio, but I just love how you done it because you can never tell if the Mando's watching you or not.
Yeah, that was a great scene. That was good humor. Again, good Star Wars humor at the right time. It was really good.
Exactly. It's not forced humor. I just love it. It's part of the scene naturally. All right, what do you got for us?
I obviously I had a lot of favorite scenes just because of the nostalgia factor and whatnot. But in the end, that last scene with Toro and Fennec, right when the sun rises, I'm telling you, it completely took me off guard. I didn't think it was going there. And I'll go ahead and play it, and then I'll mention something afterwards.
All right, here it is.
Oh, look, the suns are coming up.
Quiet.
Look, there's still time to make my rendezvous in Mos Espa. Take me to it, and I can pay you double the price on my head.
I don't care about the money.
Oh, so the Mandalorian keeps all the money for himself.
Only because I let him.
Doesn't seem that way. I mean, it seems like he's calling all the shots.
Shows what you know. I hired Mando. This is my job. Bringing you in will make me a full member of the Bounty Hunters Guild.
You already have something the Guild values far more than me. You just don't see it.
What?
The Mandalorian. His armor alone's worth more than my bounty.
I already told you, I don't care about the money.
Then think what it would do for your reputation. A Mandalorian shot up the Guild on Navarro. Took some high-value target and went rogue.
That Mandalorian.
Like I said, you don't see many. You bring the Guild that traitor, and they'll welcome you with open arms. Your name will be legendary.
How can we be sure he's the one?
Word is, he still has the target with him. Some say it's a child. Look, if you're afraid to take him on, fear not. I can help you with that. Take some advice, kid. You want to be a bounty hunter? Make the best deal for yourself and survive.
That's good advice. But if I took those binders off you, I'd be a dead man.
Oh, so much to unpack in that sequence.
Yes. Well,
Very cool.
Yeah, we'll talk about Fennec, but the whole point of, I think the outlining what the bounty hunters go by, especially this rookie, and that path of deciding what is, I'm in it for myself, and I'm in it for myself only, and he got that pretty fast, but he ended up not living by that too long, But it was overall, I just didn't expect that scene to happen. I really didn't.
No, not I didn't expect him to. I guess you can almost say step up to the plate. Like he did step it up, because after he kind of looked like a fool to the Mando, he kind of he's taken her down. After the Mando was like saying good luck, and didn't want anything to do with her, this rookie stood up to her and takes her out, because it just shows that he's willing to learn and he's able to learn and become a one-man bounty hunter. And he was probably going to try to stab Mando in the back as well as soon as he got the chance. So
yeah,
which he does in the episode later for sure. But it just shows that he was already taking what Mando was teaching him and going with it when he saw opportunity strike. So yeah, but there's a couple things in there. Like she gives us another planet name, which we'll talk about in a moment. But she gives us a planet name, Navarro, which we had no idea that's what the planet was called back then. A couple episodes ago.
Right. That's right.
There's a couple other things in there. What did you pull out from there? I forgot the other one that I was going to say.
Out of the scene?
Yeah.
Oh, no, that was it. Navarro, definitely. The child, obviously, it sounds like the whole, everybody knows. Everybody's looking for the Mandalorian with this child. It seems like,
right.
If Fennec Shand knows about it, it's like...
And she's not even a bounty hunter.
She's not even a bounty hunter. She's an assassin. So the word is spreading pretty quickly that there is a Mandalorian, all the Mandalorians shot up all the guild. Now that's a whole thing too, is the whole shoot up. There's more bounty hunters out there that's part of the guild, obviously. So are they holding this big grudge against the Mandalorians? Do they want to fight them now? Do they all have bounties on them?
Yeah, maybe they got tracking fobs on the Mando now because he shot up the guild and now the guild wants revenge.
No, that's very interesting. Yeah. Maybe that fob that they found on Sorgan was actually for him, not the kid.
Maybe.
So,
or the one that the Dewback was dragging, he had a fob with him too.
That's right.
So,
wow, yeah. So that could be Mando.
It could be. I mean, maybe that one maybe was tracking Fennec as well, but still, the possibility is there that the bounty hunters, whatever's left of the guild, is now after the Mando as well. So there could be a double bounty: kill the Mando and get the package.
Yeah,
and bring it back. Interesting. Cool.
Love it.
All right. Well, we kept touching on a lot of our points in our bounty section, where we're going to dive a little deeper. So let's get to that right now.
What if he doesn't survive? He's worth a lot to me.
All right. So a couple points, easy ones. I want to bring up the fact that the Mando has a problem with droids. Do we have any idea why? Have we gotten any speculation about why he hates droids so much?
No, I mean, I don't have any, but it is pretty evident. And that's another good callback too, was the pit droids that are in the in docking bay 3-5 there, because that was a very cool, funny moment to see, because we've only seen those in episode 1.
Phantom Menace, yeah.
Phantom Menace. Yeah, they're actually called pit droids because they usually service pod racers.
Right.
So they're actually called, what's funny is they're actually called DUM series, dumb series, pit droids.
But that has, DUM must stand for something, yeah.
Naturally, he shot at their feet, told them to get away, and they fold up. It's pretty funny. So, but last we saw them when they were on Naboo.
Yeah,
we haven't actually seen them walking around here ever.
No. So very cool again to see a callback to Phantom Menace and the movies. So yeah, fantastic.
Very much so. But what he has, I don't know. What he has against them, who knows?
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm wondering if they're going to explain that. That'll be part of his story eventually that we'll get to see. All right, now Tatooine. What do you think about Tatooine? Was he going here? Was that his original location?
That was probably the biggest question coming out of this for me was, like we said, it opens up really big on this gunfight in space, gets damaged, and luckily there's a planet nearby, and which only meant to me like he had to have been going. Was he going to Tatooine originally? That's kind of what I was.
You would think, because with his ship damaged, he wasn't going to be able to jump to hyperspace, right?
Yeah.
So it had to have been close enough that he could just get there, limping. So, yeah, I would imagine, unless there's other planets in that system, I don't know, but
not that we know of it in a way. I mean, it's obviously you can see some moons in the horizon,
right
there, but I don't know. I'm wondering if he was originally intending to go there, and was that a spot that he was thinking that he can leave the child?
Yeah.
Because it is in the Outer Rim, just like Sorgan.
I don't know if he's looking to leave the Baby Yoda anywhere anymore. I think he's keeping him with him. I don't know. Just after the way last week's episode ended, when he realized, okay, there's going to be more bounty hunters after him, I don't know if he's looking for a spot to hide him yet. I'm not sure. That's an interesting discussion right there. Is he or isn't he?
Yeah, it's very, very interesting.
But he does end up on Tatooine, which, I mean, either way, he gets there whether he was meaning to or not. That was just very, very cool. Now, it's in the cantina again, and now you brought this up. The bartender said the guild no longer operates on Tatooine. I was going to ask you why would that be, and you're speculating that's because Jabba's palace went down and Jabba, like the Hutts, are no longer in control?
Yeah. Yeah, so Jabba ran the whole crime syndicate of Tatooine.
Okay.
Back through, long before Return of the Jedi. So throughout throughout the dark times, all that stuff. He was.
But does that include the Bounty Hunter Guild?
Yeah, so he was. Well, I guess he probably wasn't running the guild, but he was definitely employing bounty hunters all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, Bosk and Dengar and Boba Fett mainly, and Greedo obviously were his big time bounty hunters that he constantly hired to go do his stuff. So a lot of the people in that cantina that we see in A New Hope, a lot of the creatures and characters and aliens in there, a lot of them, majority of them are bounty hunters. Very similar to what we saw at the Bounty Hunters Guild bar that he walked in with Grief. I mean, it's kind of that same setting, right?
Right.
So, but now that it's empty, you can clearly tell, there's no more bounty hunters in there. It's just really actually patrons and droids, which is weird to go into a bar.
Yeah. That's part of the changes that we see there now. So, that's a good point. Interesting. Yeah. Well, hey, that's just, the story, this is years later, 5 years after Return of the Jedi, so things are going to change. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a question to, the crime syndicates. I guess that's, we don't know that whole state in this new galaxy with the New Republic, the crime syndicates, where they stand. I know that's where it's being touted as a lawless time right now, but you would think that after Jabba's death, the Hutts may come back in and just send somebody else in there, but
or some other family took over.
Correct. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Interesting to know what happened to all the crime syndicates at this point.
Yeah. Because I know they're a big part of the books. Even that Bounty Hunter Wars novel that I read that was all about Boba Fett. It was all about the crime syndicate. Mm-hmm. It had to do in that book. You met Jabba the Hutt's uncle and some other family members. His whole family was involved in that book, so it was very cool. There's a lot more going on to it. So, all right, we were talking about this. I ran this by you off air before we got recorded, and you had to go back and play it again because you didn't remember. Now there's a scene here in Docking Station 35 there when the mechanic is playing cards with her droids, and you hear this scream, this screeching monster kind of creature call out from the Mandalorian ship, and they all jump up and react to it like, what the hell was that? And it was Baby Yoda as he's coming out. And immediately what I went to was that was the same type of creature call that Obi-Wan used to scare the Tusken Raiders away from Luke Skywalker when he was knocked out in A New Hope.
Yes.
The scream's not identical, but it's still very similar.
Very similar.
And I want to ask you, what could that possibly mean? Why would Baby Yoda even know that scream? Why would he use it? Was he just he's just a baby? He woke up in a dark, closed room and it scared him, so he makes this call? Because Obi-Wan called on the Force to make that sound to scare the Tusken Raiders away. So why would Yoda use it here? What does that mean?
Yeah, I don't know, because like you said, I didn't notice anything really. The 3 times I watched it, I don't know if I really noticed a shriek or it's just kind of a loud scream. But he definitely does something like that sounds more creature-esque than just a being that's doing it, I guess, or,
like a baby calling out.
Yeah. A baby, yeah, exactly, because we never heard him screaming like that. But it's funny, too, because you mentioned them playing cards. Another callback, they're actually playing Sabacc.
Right.
They got the Sabacc cards, which I thought was pretty funny, too. So, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's a significance there or not, but it definitely is some kind of shrieky sound that the Baby Yoda's making. I don't know,
is it a Force trick to, scare something away? Because that's what Obi-Wan uses it for. So, because we don't know if he fully realizes he can use the Force yet or not. So was that just was it just a reaction to him waking up alone in a dark room? So he called out, just to scare anything away? I don't know. I'd love to hear what other people theorize about that.
Yeah.
because it's a strange thing coming from a little baby critter like him.
Yeah, and that scene in A New Hope too with Obi-Wan, like the Tusken Raiders, they have stories and they've heard stories of this hooded figure, so they're already afraid of him.
Right.
But that noise is it is a telling noise that's supposed to be fearful.
Yeah.
But that'd be interesting if it's kind of some force-driven thing. I don't know.
Fascinating. Well, now speaking of the Tusken Raiders, I got a question for you here. This we're going to draw on your knowledge, your in-depth knowledge here, because they talk about the rookie. It was explained to him by the Mandalorian that the Tusken Raiders believe they are the locals to Tatooine. So I wanted to ask you: are they indigenous to Tatooine? That's their natural place, their natural planet, where they're from? Yes,
so Tatooine is definitely their home world.
Okay.
They are definitely from Tatooine. I don't... This is the first time, which is funny, because this is the first time I've heard that perspective of, no, the Tusken Raiders actually believe that they are the home species and everybody else are kind of invading
their planet, yeah.
Invading their planet, which is very, I guess you can kind of harpen back to the Indians as well, right? With us,
yep.
With people taking over America and stuff like that. So, very much like that. That's the first time I've kind of heard that part of it, but I knew that Tusken Raiders were, this is basically their home world. But they've been nomads, they're only in groups of 20 to 30. They never get bigger than that. They roam around. They never settle in one area. They're all constantly moving.
Yeah.
They have a very spiritual, I guess you could say, kind of spiritual connection to the Bantas.
Right.
That's why you always see them with Bantas. So there's a big mystical story that behind that, which is really cool. How they, Tusken Raiders that come into manhood have to be paired with a Banta and all this stuff. So, but it's really interesting to see the sign language also, which was, I'd never seen that before because I assume they spoke, but we have never heard them speak. So I guess that makes sense.
That's what I wanted to ask you about, was the sign language. That's the first time we've ever seen them other than them, growling and
right.
calling out. We've never seen them actually communicate, like try to speak to another species, let alone to each other. So that's the first time, is it not?
It is the first time.
Now, does that surprise you that it's sign language?
It does, because it starts to make me think. Again, I don't have anything that's concrete evidence of this. Kind of makes you think whether or not they can even speak.
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming they might be signing with each other as well. But they do make sounds, so they have.
They sound like a bunch of sea lions.
Exactly. Yeah. So I would, because of that, I would think they could speak to each other. But it'd be curious, maybe their language. I don't know if no one else has adopted their language, so that's why they can't speak to each other.
Right.
But it's really cool to actually see that, because and then it goes back to, wow, how educated is the Mandalorian if he knows Tusken Raider sign language?
Yeah, does that mean he visits Tatooine often? That he would need to know that, right?
Very, very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Fascinating. Yeah. So that's just part of his story. That just adds to the depth of who he is and what he's all about. That he's been there enough times that he would need to learn their language so he can get around the planet without any trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fascinating. I can't remember, way back when in one of our preview episodes, were you telling us about what they look like underneath those sand masks?
Well, that was, if you recall, that was non-canon. There were non-canon.
Or something, right?
Yeah, there were comic books that kind of showed sand people getting demasked, but in canon we've never seen anything or been told anything.
Right. I wonder if that's something we would ever see in live action here or not.
Yeah, I think it's possible one day, but I don't know in this series, but yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, we've brought her name up enough times. Let's get into Fennec Shand and talk a little bit about her. Ming-Na Wen makes her appearance in episode 5. I did not see that coming. I did not see her being introduced so early. We speculated in our preseason that she's not going to show up to the very last episode because they didn't announce her being part of the show until like a week or two before the premiere.
Yeah, I'm actually started to think that either they kept her casting under wraps or they literally were still finishing the show just a few months ago.
Yeah, maybe.
You know what I mean? Like maybe the last episode is not even fully done yet. I don't know.
Well, that makes me it has to be because they're working on season 2. Season 2 is in production right now, so maybe it's just in editing right now.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. Like they could be doing some post and maybe shooting some pickups.
Yeah,
because if you think about it, her scenes, they could have shot all the other stuff, months ago.
That's true.
And then just her stuff could have been shot within a matter of a week.
Yep.
Just a few months ago. And because maybe they just had a hard time finding who that actual character was going to be, the right person. Or maybe they had to wait for her schedule to free up in order to shoot those scenes because she's technically only in, 2 scenes basically?
Yeah, well, that was the other surprise part of it. I mean, not only did we get her so early, but she gets shot and goes down just as fast. And I'm thinking, what? That's it? They're going to bring Ming-Na Wen in just for that? But then, of course, the ending scene, which we'll get to, shows that she's possibly being rescued.
Right. Yeah, you're right. I didn't think she would show up in this episode for sure. That was a surprise, right? When he pulled that bounty puck out and her image popped up, I was again very enjoyably surprised that she was in this. But yeah, I didn't think she was gonna definitely go out like the way she did, and whether or not she's alive, we can talk about that later. But very cool episode with her, and definitely want more of her for sure.
Well, in saying that, do you think that she was a little bit underutilized here for her big debut? I mean, yeah, she had a little bit of a one-on-one combat scene here. Nothing even close to what she's performed on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but, and shooting the sniper rifle. What do you think? Do you think they could have done a lot more with her for her introduction? Or do you think it's going to be a slow burn until we get to see what she's really all about?
Yeah, I think her introduction was okay. Maybe it was underutilized. Now, if this was the only time we were seeing her, I definitely would be probably a little upset. But you don't have that, like you say, you don't have that experienced and talented of an actor to just do one episode with 2 scenes.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, for example, no offense to the guy that played Toro, but, no one really knows who that guy is. So it's safe to say he's probably not going to come back. But
yeah.
But Ming-Na Wen, you definitely want someone like that to last and be around.
Well, you know what I can see? I can see a Fennec Shand versus Cara Dune, 1-on-1, hand-to-hand.
Yeah. Oh, man, that would be fantastic.
What I see coming.
Wow.
That would be awesome. Go Cara.
Go Cara. But, does she, obviously this goes to who the end person is that comes up to her, but does she, is she still fighting the Mandalorian? Does she end up actually teaming up with the Mandalorian?
Right. Or is she going to be his main character going after him? Chasing him around the galaxy because she's an assassin, right? Kill him, get the target.
That's right. So now the question of, in our speculation, though, now the question becomes, is she actually in season 2?
Yeah.
Don't know.
We don't know.
Because again, we assumed that she was filming season 2.
Yep. Scenes.
Maybe not now.
Maybe not now. Yeah, that's interesting. I guess. Well, we got 3 episodes to find out.
I know. Right.
Now, the funny thing about her scene, though, because we speculated this in our trailer breakdown, when she says, "Your name will be legendary," we assumed she was talking to the Mandalorian, and she clearly was not here, and that line is nothing but a throwaway line.
Yeah, that was a little disappointing.
Talk about a big misdirect from the trailers.
Mm-hmm.
A huge one.
Yeah, well done, Favreau.
Jeez, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, the thing about Ming-Na Wen, what blows me away is I knew she was older than I am, but she's 56. Can you believe she's 56 and looks as good as she does and can throw down the fist as good as she can?
Yeah.
Wow.
Look, I'm half Asian, so I get that I look young all the time from people, which is funny.
Yeah.
So, I have a lot of family that's Asian, and we definitely don't look as old as we are. So
you guys don't age. You're lucky.
We don't. We got good. I guess I don't know, that good warm blood coming through us. It keeps us. Yeah, but she looks great for 56. Trust me. Yeah, and she can do all that stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing what she can do. Now, staying on her, like she mentions the planet where Mando got the job to find Baby Yoda. We already talked about it, where Werner Herzog's character was. That planet is called Navarro. We got another planet name. And I wanted to ask you, does Navarro mean anything to you? Is that a name we should know? As soon as you heard it, you're like, oh my god, that's Navarro? Did that click for you, or is this just brand new?
Brand new. It's funny that Casey had mentioned, my co-host on Inside the Force mentioned, he totally forgot. But he mentioned he texted me after the episode aired and said, oh my God, I completely forgot. He caught when IMDb started listing characters and, actors that were playing roles in The Mandalorian. He said there was one kind of way down on the list that said Navarro patron. And he didn't know what that meant.
Okay.
But so now we know that that person was on Navarro, that planet. Someone mentioned that on IMDb.
Huh.
But that's the only mention. Navarro doesn't mean anything else besides now that is the planet where that shootout happened.
Now, she also says when she's talking to the Mando, she says she knows of him, and she hasn't seen a Mandalorian in a long time. And this goes with what you were saying earlier, too, that she heard about the shootout with the guild and everything. So she's getting a lot of information about him. So I wonder if that's because she's been tasked to come find him, maybe? Or she's just an assassin and she kind of needs to know everything that's going on. I don't know. I just found it interesting that she said she hasn't seen a Mandalorian in a long time. So she's obviously got a background somewhere, somehow connected to Mandalore.
Well, yeah, she's an assassin, so could have been hired to track Mandalorians or go after Mandalorians. I don't know. That is a big question. I think we have to keep speculating about a little bit. Is this whole shootout in Navarro? I mean, they mentioned on the Mandalorians mentioned that only one goes out at a time. So if that has been the case for a long time. It's true. No one has seen one in a long time. They may have seen one here and there, but that was the first time in a long time that they've shown each other to the public.
Right.
And now I think it could be that now that they know that there's multiple Mandalorians out there, I mean, there might be prices on these guys' heads. And there could be like this there could be this still known bounty or call from the government that they need to be captured. I don't know. Like they could be treated as some criminal gang or something like that needs to be caught. I don't know. Maybe these assassins, these other bounty hunters. It's not just maybe our Mando guy. Maybe it's all the Mandalorians now need to be captured or hunt down.
I guess that depends on the state of the Empire, because we know that the Empire is no more, but once we get introduced to Moff Gideon, we know he's trying to rebuild things and get things back in order. So I think it depends on the state of all of that, where everything stands. We know the Empire not too long ago had the Purge, of Mandalore. So whether that is still a standing order that all Mandalorians need to be shot on sight or something,
right?
I guess that will lead into where this series is going, possibly with the Mandalorians, because we now know there is a bunch of them, and they obviously revealed themselves, like you said. So that probably plays into the overall arching story that's going to be carried through. So we'll have to see where they go with that.
Yeah, hopefully they do shed some light on that for sure.
Yeah, for sure. All right, now we also mentioned the mechanic lady in Mos Eisley. Now her name, this didn't get mentioned on the show. I had to look to the credits. I cued in on what you're always doing. I looked at the credits afterwards. Her name was Peli Motto.
Yes.
And she was an interesting character, kind of funny, kind of goofy. She was, I'm assuming she just services Landing Bay 35. I don't know if every landing bay has a little ship's mechanic or whatever that is there working. I don't know if you know anything about that, but what I wanted to ask you, if you've got any information, but I'm curious if she's now going to be a new ally to our Mandalorian as well, similar to what Quill was, that there's a chance she might show up again, because they obviously had a little bit of a connection at the end there. She protected Baby Yoda for him. They worked together a little bit to trick the rookie and defeat him. So there's a bit of a bond there. There's a bit of a relationship developed. Could she come back again?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a possibility there. I don't know specifically. This is the first time we've seen this particular person in charge of a bay there at the port.
That's not something that we've always seen, right? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, the only other bay was Docking Bay 94, which is where the Falcon was.
Yeah.
And it didn't seem like there was anybody in there that we know of. But, yeah, it definitely, with Quill, with Cara Dune, with now Peli, it's like, it does seem like they're introducing a series of allies that the Mandalorian can fall back on, or recruit or help with any kind of mission he's going to be tasked with, I guess. So I don't know if she'll come back up in this season, but I definitely think she could pop up at any point in the series for sure.
Well, and it's like any good spacefaring TV show. And I think of Firefly is a good example, but other shows have done it too. Like, any guy that captains a ship, when he's flying from planet to planet, he always has contacts wherever he goes, and he relies on them, whether he has to go into hiding, whether he needs help, whether he needs repairs, whatever. They always have contacts. So I think, just like you said, we're watching the Mando sort of build up his contact base and develop these relationships. So I think that's what's happening. It's a cool idea, and I hope it's going forward that way, to give these characters a chance to return.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. I think they definitely could come back and help him in different ways.
Yeah. It'd be funny to see Peli meet up with Quill, because they obviously know the same kind of stuff. So whether they would agree with each other or fight with each other.
Did you see the Twitter? There's a lot of tweets out there that compared her look to that of Ripley from Alien.
Oh, you know what? No, that's the first time I heard of it. But as soon as you said Ripley, I thought, yeah, she looks like a mini-me version of Ripley.
Yeah. That was pretty cool.
That's kind of funny. Yeah, hilarious. All right, well, let's get to the one big final what the heck does that mean question, and that is how this episode ended. Who was that in the end scene going to get Fennec? There's a lot of debate out there. I've seen a lot of different guesses. People think it's the Mando himself, but I'm going to tell you right now, for all of you that do, it is not him. Because the Mandalorian, on his right leg, and every scene that you see him in, he's got ammunition for his pulse rifle strapped around his leg. All those little silver bullet canisters. He's got them strapped around his right leg. And in the shot, when you see the guy lean down on one knee to check on Fennec, there is no ammo strapped to the leg. So that rules out Mando in my eyes. Now, others think it's Boba Fett due to the sound of hearing spurs jingling as he walks. And that would be cool, but I'm sorry. Those boots and those legs, that does not look like Boba Fett's gear to me. Although he did fall into the Sarlacc pit, and the acid in his stomach and all that kind of stuff he could be in brand new clothing. But I don't think it's Boba Fett. Not only because of that, but because Jon Favreau himself strictly said before the premiere there will be absolutely no Boba Fett in this series because they want the spotlight to stay on The Mandalorian and not have fans go crazy over Boba Fett. Then they would lose focus on who the new character is. So, could this have been another misdirect when Favreau said that there will be no Boba Fett? Is there a chance that they would introduce Boba Fett into this? I don't really believe so. The other speculation I heard is that it could be Moff Gideon. That could be the start of Moff Gideon making his appearance. I don't know. What do you have for us?
Well, I definitely don't think it's, like you said, Mandalorian, because the first question I would say is if he wanted her, or he would have threw her on the back of the dewback and just took her then. Because my biggest thing is like, so the suns are coming up. Yeah. So before I get into that speculation, I got a question back for you. So the suns are coming up.
Okay.
Tori goes up to her, kills her, shoots her, not kills her, maybe shoots her. You know, the Mandalorian comes over and sees her on the dewback, and then takes the long trek on a dewback all the way back to Mos Eisley. So it's sundown. So the whole day has gone by.
Right.
And then he flies off, and then we see that scene. So, she's laying there all day. Is she not dead?
Yeah, because she got shot in the stomach.
Yes. I mean, she would have bled out, or I don't know, maybe not.
Maybe she's wearing some kind of armor, and the blast just knocked her out so hard she's unconscious for a while.
True. So did you when she got shot? Did you assume that she was dead?
I didn't think she was dead right away because it took her a while to go down. She stood on her feet for a couple seconds and just slowly fell down to her knees, and then laid on the ground. So that's why I think she is just kind of out cold.
Yeah.
But thing is, when you get shot in the stomach, it's usually a headshot that knocks you out unconscious. So a stomach shot, she maybe laid down and had a slow death. So maybe she's going to be revived somehow. Yeah,
maybe she's barely alive, and then they have the whole bantha tanks, and you can get in there and get healed pretty quickly. So that was my only question, was how long she had been there. Like, she had been there all day in the sun.
In the evening, yeah.
So
exactly.
And it didn't move. Like, she's in the same position. Which,
right.
When that, so you're right. Her vitals could be very low, and she could be. So,
yeah.
So after getting by the fact that I think, okay, well, she's not dead. We're definitely going to see her again. Mm-hmm. I agree with you 100%. It's not Boba Fett. And no matter how bad people want to see Boba Fett in this series, it's not going to happen.
Right.
I think it comes down to two people. I think it comes down to, this is the introduction to Moff Gideon. It definitely would make sense because I feel like he has a cape in the shots that we've seen in the trailer.
Everybody wears a cape, it seems.
I know, right? Or a big trench coat or something, He's got boots, I feel like. I don't know. That outfit could fit. Now, the one I heard, which is what I'm rooting for. There's a there's a bounty hunter that is known really well in the Star Wars community from the Clone Wars. He was introduced at the end of Season 1 and the beginning of Season 2, and his name is Cad Bane.
Cad Bane. Okay, I have not heard that name yet.
So Cad Bane is a Duro. He's a blue-skinned Duro. If anybody has played Battlefront 2, did you ever play Battlefront 2, the campaign?
No, I did not. No.
So if anybody has played that, there is a blue-skinned Duro on there called Shreve. That's what they look like, if anybody wanted to see what they look like. But if you look up Duro, D-U-R-O, you can kind of see the creature. They're blue skin. They got bright red eyes. So Cad Bane is and it's funny because he is a gunslinger. The title of this episode.
I just pulled up a picture of him. I see he's a very tall, you know what he looks like? He looks like your typical gray aliens that most people think they're being abducted by UFOs. He looks like that, but blue skin and red eyes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you see a picture of him, I mean, he looks straight out of a Western.
Yeah, totally. He's wearing like a long brown trench coat and a cowboy hat. Yeah, totally.
And he has sidearms, 2 sidearms.
Yeah.
He's very slick. He's so overmatched that he could beat anybody. Actually, he has Jedi's have a problem with him. Again, in the Clone Wars, he was able to sneak into the temple and steal a holocron.
Wow.
This guy is so skilled. We don't know the fate of him because the series closed. We never saw him again. In fact, when I went to Star Wars Celebration after the Clone Wars was finished, and there was a lot of unused episodes, a lot of unused art, Filoni did a panel where he showed some animatronic episodes that never got to finished. We may get them, when the Clone Wars comes back. We don't know.
Okay.
But in those unfinished episodes, Cad Bane was training young Boba Fett into becoming a Mandalorian, and a skilled bounty hunter. In fact, they had an argument, and at this point, Boba Fett being probably, this was a few years after Episode 3, so he was, he was maybe, I don't know, 15 or something like that, 14, 15. There was a time at this point he had the Mandalorian armor, the mask.
Jeez.
So he was straight Boba Fett at this point.
Right.
And Cad Bane and him had this argument, and they had a shootout. And they did the whole Western thing. It was a big Western thing, that Western shot that Filoni was talking about, how they were, standing in the street, across from each other, holding their hands near their holsters. And they drew and shot each other. Now, what we don't know is whether or not Cad Bane was killed, because he did get shot. But the bullet mark that's in Boba Fett's helmet, that was from Cad Bane.
Oh, okay. That's some interesting connections. Cool.
Yes. So anyway, Cad Bane is a rumor that I've been hearing out there, and I would so be, because that was Filoni's stories. He's the one that told those Cad Bane stories from Lucas. Right. That would be I would be all for that.
That's where you're putting your money on?
I don't know, because that's a hard bet. It's a hard bet because, like you said, you don't know who he is. A lot of people don't know who he is. You'd have to explain who he is a lot. I don't know if they're willing to do that.
But But the thing is they're introducing new characters. I mean, we got Cara Dune, we got Quill. These are brand new characters. So why couldn't they introduce Cad Bane, which, for anyone who hasn't watched Clone Wars, would be a new character too. But for anyone who's watched Clone Wars, would go absolutely ballistic that they're introducing him here in live action. So it would please both sides of the fan base, because we're already used to seeing new characters. So if they brought someone in that some people recognize, it's not going to hurt the show. People could freak out about it, and everyone else could go, who's that? Okay, he's cool, because Moff Gideon is going to be new when we see him. So,
yeah.
That's he sounds cool. Just looking at his picture, it'd be really cool to see someone like him. And, coming up, introducing him on a desert planet, and he's kind of a Western dude, it'd be perfect anyway.
Like you said at the front of this episode, with Favreau saying he's pulling from different things, to make those connections.
Yeah.
Like, that would be a huge connection to the Clone Wars.
There you go. Why not?
But the big question I think comes up too, though, is whoever that person is, how do they know that she's there?
Unless they've got a tracking fob on her. Because the rookie had one. Or he just happens to... you're right.
Living out there and finds her, or
coming across her, or what? Yeah, there could be a few situations. Although, as we've seen how far they traveled on the speeder bikes, she's out in the middle of nowhere. She was out across the Dune Sea or something. They said, right? So yeah, it must be someone that knew she was there. Who knows?
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. Beyond the Dune Sea, what did we hear that from? That was Luke saying, Old Ben lives beyond the Dune Sea.
Right.
So maybe Cad Bane's living in Obi-Wan's old house. Who knows?
Well, and I mean, Fennec Shand, she's also a new character, so maybe if this is Cad Bane, maybe he knows Fennec. Maybe they're friends. Maybe
very true.
They work together or train together. Who knows? There could be any number of ways they could write that in. So, but what we do, Vizsla, is there's a few of these things that we're pointing out. Cad Bane and the interview with Gina Carano and this book, Certain Point of View. We should start posting these things on our Facebook page so that people can check them out.
Sure.
So I'm making a list. We'll start doing that. So, and I think posting a couple pictures of Cad Bane would be actually really, really cool, so people can see who you're talking about, and then be surprised if he is the one that shows up. I heard about that on the MandaLore podcast first. I knew they're right.
Yeah, and they can go and I can list some episodes too. They can go back and watch Clone Wars if they want to catch some history of this character.
We'll do that. I mean, that's something I think we should just continue going forward now. If we're talking about some news or speculation, some things like this, let's make some posts on the Facebook page to drive people to go check it out, and that way they know what we're talking about, and it it builds the community, and we're developing the show as we go. And there you go, folks. You just heard a new idea spark live right here. We're down to it either being Moff Gideon or this new guy that you're thinking. Cad Bane.
Yeah, I guess it could be someone else, but more than likely, if you were to hold me to it, I would probably say it's Moff Gideon, just because we know that character is going to show up.
Yeah.
But if I want it to be somebody, it's definitely Cad Bane.
All right, well, let's see what our fans out there have to say. We're going to get into our feedback section for this week.
He's no good to me dead.
All right, you posted another Twitter poll for episode 5.
Yes, of course, just like our other ones, we were kind of asking everybody what you thought about rating on Chapter 5 here, and I'm actually updating it because the poll is still going on, and it's actually changed a little bit here. So we had 4 options, 4, 3, 2, 1 star. Right now, it's actually pretty interesting because it doesn't seem like this episode was all that popular on at least on our Twitter. You guys voted out there that The Mandalorian Chapter 5 got 49% of you picked 4 stars. So just under half, actually.
Okay.
3 stars, 30%. 2 stars, 19%. And then 1 star, actually. We did get a 1-star rating, which was 2%.
Wow. That's the biggest division of all the episodes, because you got all across the board from 1 to 4 stars.
Yes, where typically we usually get 3 or 4.
Yeah. I wonder what it is about this one.
Yeah, I don't know either. I did. I don't know. I did hear some things on Twitter a little bit about it being, again, not so much an advancement of the story and stuff like that, but but I don't know. It's a little mixed. It seems like, even though I loved it.
Yeah, so did we. Now, something else. Let's talk about something very positive. We actually got in some iTunes reviews and ratings, which is the first of them. We've got 4 ratings on there and 2 reviews so far. Now, I find this kind of funny because you don't have to comment when you give your rating out of stars, and there was 2 in there. We had a 1 5-star rating, and it's max 5. So we had 1 5-star rating, and we had a 2-star rating for our podcast. And I had wished that there was a comment there. So if you're still listening after you give such a low rating, let us know what it is you don't like about the show, because we can't improve unless we know what it is you don't like about the show. That's what I'm curious about. So I don't care that we get a low rating from somebody, because that only helps us improve. And like we were joking around off air, it could be just a hater out there. There's a lot of people out there that they just do that for fun because they want to be jerks that way. Whatever. Doesn't matter what it is. I would love to just find out. But the 5-star rating was pretty cool. Now, the other 2 we're actually going to mention, and we want to say thank you to, and this is a tough name to, how would you pronounce this? Smexonebidal. Smexonebidal?
Nebdai. Smexonebdai.
That's what it looks like.
Sorry.
Anyway, they gave us a 5-star review, and it says they provide a free show. In exchange, they ask for ratings. So I rate This Is the Way.
Yes,
Very
he
quick.
is Mandalorian.
Yeah, obviously. Obviously, whoever this person is, this is the way. But I appreciate the sentiment behind that, because this podcast is the way, meaning it is the one to listen to, it is the one to tune into about this TV show. So thank you so much for that. And now the next one is from D. Trapita. And they also give us 5 stars. And what do they have to say? I'll let you read this one.
Yes, great comment. They simply say, quote, great podcast exploring the Mandalorian show. Both these guys give great thoughts and speculation and go through all the Easter eggs. Very entertaining. Best podcast about Mandalorian yet, and I listen to many others.
Thank you for that so much, D. Trapita. I hope we're pronouncing that right. We appreciate you not only rating our show, but just your kind words and talking about our show being the best one out there, and you've checked them all out. That is music to our ears, because I know there's a few podcasts out there. So just thank you so much for that. We'd love to hear from you on some feedback sometime if you're willing to do that. But yes, much appreciated.
Yes.
All right, now let's get into our regular feedback. And once again, X-Force 11 is with us with his episode 5 thoughts. Let's see what he says.
The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. That's the opening line of Stephen King's The Gunslinger, which starts the Dark Tower series. In our reality, it is the woman in black fled across the desert, and the Mandalorian followed. This is Jeff, X-Force 11, leaving my feedback for the most recent episode. I enjoyed this tale of the Mandalorian being forced to work for this wannabe bounty hunter in order to get the money for the repairs on his ship. And it takes us to Tatooine. And it was so neat to see this world in a different context than the Skywalker saga. And I thought it was a great tale of intrigue and just getting to know the Mandalorian skills in a different way. I really appreciated the mythology that it gave us in bits and pieces about how the Mandalorian's infamy is kind of spreading across the universe, and it really makes me want to see what is next. These episodes are short, but they seem to be leaving us with just the amount of wanting to wait till next week, and I think they're doing a good job. All right, those are my thoughts. X-Force 11 out.
Awesome, Jeff. Thanks again for being part of the show. He had a couple good points there. Infamy is a great word to describe what's happening with the Mandalorian's reputation right now.
Very much so. You know, another thing I can't believe I just never mentioned earlier, but he reminded me by talking about going back to Tatooine. But you know, this episode was we got our first repeat director. This was directed by Dave Filoni.
Oh, okay.
From the first episode, and
right.
In fact, what was also surprising is that he actually wrote this episode as well.
Okay, cool.
So just huge. I'm a huge fan of Dave Filoni. Can't stress that enough. And
yeah,
like we said about Favreau and him, I mean, they're both just huge Star Wars fans, and I think he just did a fantastic job bringing all the nostalgia back.
Yeah, he did for sure. And the other thing that Jeff mentioned too was the revisiting Tatooine from a different perspective than the Skywalker saga. That is a great way to look at it. This is a brand new perspective, and we're seeing Tatooine almost in it's just regular daily life. Like this is just what a regular day is like there, and visiting Cantina, and that's just the regular locals all hanging out. You know, the what do you call it? The people that are there every day or every week or whatever.
Yeah, the residents there.
Yeah, the residents, you know. So it just seemed like we visited it when nothing big in the galaxy is happening. This is just everyday life.
Yeah, actually, do you remember, especially in the special editions, right? They reshot the ending of Return of the Jedi.
Yeah. When
they showed the celebration, and it seemed like Mos Eisley was this big, sprawling city with all these people in it.
Yeah.
5 years later, it doesn't seem like there's anybody there.
No, yeah, it looked pretty sparse. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so something happened. You know, maybe the New Republic. I don't know. It's a good question.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks, Jeff. Now, we got a new feedbacker. Her name is Kim, and she sent me a quick little email saying, "First, I love the podcast. Great work. I just asked to join the Facebook group." Awesome. I probably accepted you. Unless you did, David. I'm not sure. She said, "I saw this on YouTube and wanted to share it with you. I don't know if you're fans of the Broadway musical Hamilton, but that is where the song they changed the words to came from in this video. It is the best ode to Baby Yoda song ever." And she provides a YouTube link. And it's funny that she says, "Take care, Kim." It's funny that she sent this to us because I just saw this video and this song hit the charts and people started posting it everywhere. I think it's already been posted on our Facebook page. I'm going to put the link there again anyway. But it's so funny. I just saw that, and then Kim sent us this email. It's a fantastic little song. Vizsla, you said you haven't heard it yet or checked it out yet, have you?
I haven't yet.
All right. For all of you that have not yet, I'll put the link on the Facebook page. I'm gonna play the first verse of the song right now. It's kind of a lullaby, but just listen to the words. It's cute and it's funny. And the guy's voice are actually pretty good. So here's a little bit of that song.
Dear Baby Yoda, what to say to you? You have big eyes, we don't yet know your name. When you came across the screen, you could, and it broke my heart. I'm dedicating every meme to you. Galactic life had never known such style. You make me smile. You knock me out, I fall apart. Even when you eat a frog. You have hunters tracking your location. Mando will fight for you. He'll make it right for you. If he lives up to his reputation, he'll make it safe for you. You'll be in season 2 and you'll blow us all away. Someday, someday. Yeah, you'll blow us all away. Someday, someday.
And there you go. That's the first verse.
Wow, now, that is great.
The song actually picks up from there. A second guy comes in and there's two of them singing together, and the video is funny. You should see what these guys do with their longing for Baby Yoda. The one guy, he's got a picture of his son on his desk and he rips it out of the frame and replaces it with a Baby Yoda picture. And oh my god, it's just funny. It's a funny little video, and the song, it's just a fun, goofy little song. But I'll post the link so you guys can check that out if you haven't seen it already.
That is great. And then, of course, we were talking about earlier, too, about all those different versions of the Baby Yoda messing with the switches on the dash and the music changing and stuff like that. There's a ton of those. Those are great.
There's so many. Actually, we'll post a couple of the good ones. So I think someone did on our Facebook page. The best one I seen was the Africa from Toto, the old 80s song that kicks in. And it's just beautiful. That was my
favorite
that
song.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
all right,
great.
well, that is all we got for feedback, guys. So if you want to be like these fantastic people and be part of the show, we know you guys are out there. We have over 1,500 downloads of our podcast already. So our show is a success. We want to say thank you to everybody out there. But that means there's a lot of listeners. We would love to get more feedback, guys. We'd love to get a good handful of it in every week with all your thoughts, all your speculation, or you're just Star Wars nerding out excitement for this. Join us, be part of the show. And how to do that, listen to this.
If you'd like to be a part of the show, you can send in feedback to themandalorepodcast at gmail.com. And also join our Facebook group. Otherwise, if you don't, we'll put a bounty on your head.
You know, I just realized maybe the fact that we're threatening to put bounties on their heads, maybe that's why no one's giving feedback.
That could be. It could be.
That's hilarious. All right, guys. Well, you know how to get a hold of the show. Just reach us on Twitter as well, at themandalorepod. You can reach me at CyberTiger17. And David, you are at?
I'm DCOTAM21 on Twitter.
All right. Don't forget about that Facebook Mandalore podcast group. And then also don't forget, never mind forgetting, make sure to check out our other podcasts that me and David co-host with other people. David is on Inside the Force. It's a very in-depth Star Wars podcast. It's a lot of fun. They cover everything. And then if you're into the DC TV shows like Arrow and Legends of Tomorrow, with the big Crisis event that starts tonight with Supergirl, if you guys are into that, check out my Arrow Squad show and my Tomorrow's Legends show. We are putting together a massive podcast crossover event where there's 5 podcasts getting together to do a big roundtable discussion of the Crisis event. So if you're on the radar for that kind of stuff, then join us there for sure.
Nice.
I don't know. What else do you got, David?
Well, just to add to that, if anybody's interested, we're actually this week recording an audio commentary for The Last Jedi, leading into The Rise of Skywalker. Since we have all this marketing material now, we're going to make some big connections from what we think is going to, what The Last Jedi is leading into. So we've held off on doing that, and then we're going to do it this week and put it out before the movie comes out. So
cool. So you're going to speculate on how you think it's going to lead into?
Yes, there's going to be a lot of discussions. Yeah, cool. What's happened in that movie and why it's happened based on what we see in the Rise of Skywalker marketing.
Cool. Looking forward to that.
So it's going to be fun. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think that's all I got for this week, guys. Everybody have a fantastic weekend. We'll be back with you next Friday. Is our next episode. When's that double episode coming up? There's one on Wednesday. Is that next week or the week after?
Yeah, so there's only 3 episodes left. This Friday, and then the following Wednesday, which is the 18th. It'll be out then, and then because Skywalker's coming out the 20th, and then the week after that, the 27th, is the finale, season 1 finale.
Okay, cool. So we got one more regular week before that weird short week. Okay, awesome. Just want to make sure everyone knew that. We will touch base and make sure you got all the details clear and squared away when that happens. So next week's just a normal week. So as I was about to try to say, that's all I got for this week. This is Siber Wren signing off.
And this is D.Vizsla. This is the way.
The MandaLore is not affiliated with Disney, Lucasfilm, or Fairview Entertainment. This is a fan-made podcast for entertainment purposes only. All music and sound effects are solely owned by their respective properties.